Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. There has to be something more. Thank you so much for joining us today and letting me, your humble host, Scott Moore, speak to you a little bit today. We had a really cool video. I hope you got a chance to watch the last one. It was about, where are the wealthier areas if you want to spend some more money, if you want to live in bigger homes around Matagalpa, Nicaragua. So that was very cool. I think the next ones may be about rentals. Like we're gonna go, as much as we really do not want to move again, we're gonna look around and kind of think about maybe moving. We love our neighborhood and we love a bunch of our neighbors, but we may move anyway if we can get a few things. We have to have a place that's furnished. We have to have a little place that's got some kind of little place to go pee, some little yard for the dogs. So anyway, we'll show you around. If we get a chance to go inside a few places, we're going to bring you along with us. Today I just thought the subject might be something like why retire early. And so because I watched another video where it was a guy, great guy named Paul, that's in the Philippines. He's been there for 6 years now, and he was talking about, who is it that's actually retiring and going to these different places. And I think there's some misconceptions out there about who is it that's going and traveling to these, unique locations, especially the unique lower cost of living locations. But I just thought I'd give you at least a little bit of insight into that. To do that, I really probably need to start with my background a little bit, which I haven't gotten into at all on this channel. But my background has always been in the investment in the retirement industry. I started in 1986 when you used to go in and take your Series 7 general investment license with a number 2 pencil, and there'd be like 500 people in an auditorium. Things have changed a lot over the years, but my background is I've worked as trading in a municipal bond department, trading municipal bonds for Payne Weber for a number of years. We covered the whole southeastern U.S. out of an office in Orlando. I worked as a financial advisor for some of the biggest banks. One was the biggest bank in Florida. This will date me. It was Barnett Bank many years ago. But I worked as a financial advisor for several of the large banks in Florida. Worked as a regional VP and wholesaler for a few large companies. The last 15 years, I got out of sales, thank goodness, and went into education. And so the last 15 years was working as a retirement counselor and worked in 2 really enormous healthcare facilities. One was Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The other, Prisma Health in Greenville, South Carolina. Very similar. Huge, enormous places. Wake Forest Baptist at the time had like 25,000 employees. There were 3 of us that were administering the retirement plans there. At Prisma, there was a team of 5 of us that were administering the plan. So anytime anybody had a question about their 403B, 401A, 457, executive deferred compensation, anything like that, they were calling us. And we'd travel around, but it was all education. We had nothing to sell, which was really nice. The one thing that I can tell you is overall Americans do not have enough money saved, and they're not going to. At some point there has to be a crisis, because I can tell you, like, my typical day the last 15 years was talking to 10 or 12 employees, doctors, nurses, everybody that would work at a healthcare facility, going over their retirement plans with them to make sure they're using their accounts properly, let them know how they work, being available for questions about asset allocation in their investment programs, that sort of thing. But people do not have enough. When you start looking at the percentage, I don't care what anybody says. We were on the ground for years and years, and that's the truth. People just do not have enough money saved. So then there's also the idea of, well, okay, so do I want to retire in the United States? I mean, to me, I lived there almost my whole life, except for 1 year in Costa Rica many, many decades ago. I lived in the United States my whole life, and I just needed more excitement, more adventure than that. I didn't want to keep doing the same thing. I turned 60. I'm in the fourth quarter of life. There's not that many years left, and none of us are promised tomorrow. So, for me, getting out and having adventures was really, really key. And, the other thing was, and I love my country. I am a very patriotic person. I love my country, but I just didn't want to, I wanted to retire at least 62. I definitely did not want to go past then, but, we ended up getting out at 60. I just had to get off the hamster wheel. And, part of it was corporate America, if you're in that, in your job right now, it can really be something that really sucks the soul out of you, the life out of you. And more today than ever before. So, like, I remember one of my managers that interviewed me for the job at Wake Forest Baptist. He said, look, stay away from politics. You do not want to get involved in a political discussion with anybody. And he said, the way I would handle it is if somebody starts in on politics, you just say, we're not going to solve the world's problems today, but hey, we can shed some light on how your retirement plan is going along. So that was kind of how things were handled 15 years ago. It was something you just stayed away from. When I left, like the last 3 or 4 years, there was definitely agendas being pushed at you. Not in a kind of easy way. It was, these are mandatory trainings that you were going to take. So I don't know what it is that you're going through, but that was the kind of thing that I was going through, and it had become a place where, joking around, you had to be really careful with any jokes. It's just something like all your personality was like, boy, I better keep my mouth shut here. I better keep my mouth shut there. One of my managers, if you're watching, you'll know who I'm talking about, used to encourage me, hey, when we're on these group calls, I'd love for you to chime in a little bit more. Well, I wasn't going to chime in a little bit more. There was just chiming in could get you either volunteered for an extra job that you didn't want, but it could also, be something, somebody just slips and says something. So I'll just give you one example, and I really want to stay away from politics as much as possible, but just to kind of, show the point is, like one of the trainings that we had to do was about, systemic racism in the United States. Now, I know there's racists in the United States, but systemic, is it all through our system? All I can do is tell you what my personal experience was. Now, we are a tri-racial family of me, the white guy, and, Lydia, the girls, the kids. One of our girls is married to somebody from Indonesia, so they're Asian. So I've got grandkids that are half Hispanic, half Asian. We are a tri-racial family, and for the most part lived in the deep South. So that's supposed to be, hey, everybody says that's the most racist place in the United States. Well, that was not our experience at all. Being stopped by a police officer, that wasn't something that we ever worried about. You just were respectful to police officers, and we never, ever, ever in decades had a problem. So, when it's pushed at you, like, if it's one thing if it's a question, like, is there systemic racism? And that's something that, we could debate and talk about all day long. But when it's pushed at you, like, this is a mandatory training because there is systemic racism in the U.S., that's a different story. And that was the kind of stuff I couldn't wait to get away from. And even the news in the U.S., no matter which side of the political spectrum you're on, it can grind you down. And I started finding that the more I turned the news off, and you'll notice our TV is off and there's a plug hanging off the front of it because we just don't use it. I'll use it for certain things. Like I like UFC, MMA fights, college football, stuff like that. But for the most part, our TV is off. And the longer I keep the news off from the US, the more my mood improves. Don't know if you're the same, but if you haven't tried it, turn the news off for a few days, see if your mood improves. But that was kind of part of one of the things that we wanted to escape from. One of the reasons that we're so happy here, living in Matagalpa right now. And it just, it's nice to be off that hamster wheel. It's nice to be in a place where, you can joke around. Here in the neighborhood, my name is Chalita, the white guy. Chalito, excuse me, Chalito. And that's affectionately used by neighbors, but that's something you'd have to be a little bit cautious about in the US. Don't want to call somebody this color person or that color person. I don't take offense at all, even though I'm the only white guy in the neighborhood. But it's just so nice and so refreshing to be in a place that's not so tense and bound up like that. But costs were another reason that we wanted to escape early. We had three things that were hurting us financially over and over and over again. We had old dogs, old teeth, and old cars. We had the old cars because we had planned our escape. We had been planning to leave for 10 years probably. And so we really wanted to get out, and we kept thinking, well, I'm not buying a new car. We're just going to drive these till they drop, and hopefully they're going to drop like right when we're ready to retire. Well, it didn't exactly work out like that, and we'd spend, $500 here, $1,000 here, and then it would break down again. It's like, well, I already spent, $3,000, so I might as well spend another $500 and go ahead and get this thing fixed, and it just kept going over and over again. But things like, right before we left, Lydia had root canals. 2 root canals done. It was like $4,000 or $5,000. Sam, our little Jack Russell Terrier, he got really sick. He was being over medicated on some medicine that he was taking. He ended up having to go in on a Friday night, so you have to take him to one of those emergency room vets. And he ended up being there like 4 or 5 days. Well, the bill was seven grand. So it's like things like that where they were just hitting us over and over and over and over again. And we, at some point you start to think, holy cow, you add up old cars, old dogs, and old teeth, and all of a sudden it's like we're just, that's money that normally we'd be putting away and saving in our retirement accounts and all that. And then you start going, okay, well, gee, what if I was in a different country? What would the bill look like then? I can tell you here, one, old cars are not a problem because we don't have a car and we don't want a car. That was one of the things, we brought the van down here just to get Roscoe down here because he was too big to fly. So no car, the city is very walkable. A taxi is $1 or $2 anywhere you go in the city. So, if we take 50 taxi rides for $2, then it's $100 a month. And we don't even spend that much. So, teeth and dogs, I can tell you about the dogs. We have our vet lives literally across the street. I can throw a rock and hit his house right now. And he comes to our house, and lately all 3 of the dogs have been sick, and he's been over here almost every night. And from the best I can figure out, it's about 25% the cost, maybe 20% of the cost that we would be spending in the U.S. today. So it's just one more reason why we kind of said, we just have to bail out of here. Everything is so much more cost effective over there, and we don't have to be handing out these thousands and thousands of dollars. Another thing that I would point out is life expectancy in the U.S. still somewhere around 80, 81, last I saw. But also not just life expectancy, but it's also like energy and mobility expectancy. Now, I don't know if that's the correct term to use, but at what point am I so old that I don't have the energy to get up and go places and have different adventures, and mobility also. Lydia and I walking up and down these hills every day. You can kind of tell. It's like, whoa, boy, my hip's a little sore here, my knees feel a little creaky there. we're doing great right now. We do fine, and this is the hilliest place. I can't imagine living in a place where there's steeper inclines and declines. But we do fine now. But 10 years from now, that could completely be a different story. It may be that we wouldn't be able to live here, or we'd have to have definitely a different location. So, that's part of the thing about do we get out of here now? The average Social Security check in the U.S. is a little over $1,500. The 75% of Americans take Social Security at 62, which is the earliest age you can take Social Security. Why do they do that? I think it's just because they can. Some people take it just because it's available and they're going to go ahead and start it. Really, if you're going to stay in the U.S., and you have to take into account things like your current health, your family history. It's a life expectancy bet. But most people, about 3/4 of Americans, take it as fast as they possibly can. Is that a good thing or not? I'm going to take mine at 62, but that's something for your individual situation, something you've got to think of. But I can tell you this: with the average Social Security check of $1,500, there are so many great places. Lydia and I plan to go bounce around all over, from Mexico all the way down to Argentina. And we've got cities picked out in different countries that we want to go see, to see if where we're going to find our favorite place and where we're going to go ahead and do the retirement. And we might take 10 years to travel around and find that place. But that's kind of the goal. We're looking from Mexico all the way down to the tip of Argentina, so Buenos Aires is probably the last spot. We're looking at Southeast Asia, so that would be the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Cambodia, all those places over there. There's a few that we may even try in Eastern Europe. My point is, there's a lot of places. If you've got that average Social Security check, there's a lot of places where you can be really comfy. And if you're a couple, and you've both got $1,500 checks, you've got $3,000 coming in a month. Living here, and every place is different, but all the places that we're going, a couple with $3,000 a month could live a really comfortable life. So, just kind of something to think about. Eventually, I am going to do a video, and I'll probably put it on the website. But it's going to be about the details of, like, hey, if you were to go in and sit down with a financial advisor, these are the kind of things that you said, hey, I want to retire. These are the kind of things that person is very likely to go into with you. And I'm going to give you lots of rules of thumb. Again, I don't know you. I don't know your individual situation, but I'll give you some rules of thumb where you can kind of try to figure out, you should probably be able to figure out, am I set up for a good retirement? So hoping to do that. I am working on the website, but I am tech challenged. I'm 60 years old, so I have to call my kids and my grandkids for some technology questions about how to set up websites and all that stuff. And I am working on it. I actually have my fancy new GoPro. This is the GoPro Hero 11. And I got my fancy new selfie stick here, which I'm trying to play with. So I'm trying to learn how to use my new GoPro. That's one of the things I do. But it's so nice, and I can't tell you how happy it makes me to wake up in the morning and think, I don't have to spend the next 10 hours chained to a laptop somewhere. And it was hurting me emotionally, psychologically, physically. I mean, if you'll notice, when I'm walking around the neighborhoods and things like that, you can kind of see I'm limping a little bit. I have this hip flexor pain, and I've gone to different doctors. I'm going to have an MRI done eventually, but it's that right in the top of your hip. It's not my hip. It's not a problem. It's a muscle in there. It's a hip flexor. And they told me that it was from 3 years of COVID sitting at your desk in that sitting position where that muscle just keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And eventually you stand up and it's like, it takes me a minute to even straighten up a little bit. But it takes its toll on you. I mean, in whatever job you're in, you're going to have different challenges. But that was one of mine. So now I wake up and it's like, hey, I'm going to go take a long walk. I'm going to play with the dogs. I'm going to go to the gym. But I get to wake up and just do anything I want to do. Not, it's not a daily routine set up by someone else. I can't tell you how wonderful that is. So anyway, Tuesday, April 25th, if you are sitting around thinking, I just need some adventure, I need to get out of here, this life is starting to get to me, and I want to go do some fun things, this may be the right channel for you. And we hope that you'll follow us along as we travel to different places. Again, we'll probably be here for about a year or so, maybe a little more. And the next videos that we're going to show you are going to be things like showing you the inside of places and the costs of rental places. We still want to do some things about dating here. If you're a single person, would you want to be here dating? Different things like that. So we've got, and also talking to expats about, hey, you've lived here for 2, 3, 5, 8 years. Why? Why do you live here? What's so great about it? So we're going to talk to some expats and kind of give you some details about that as well. Hope you join our channel. Please like and subscribe. It's very important to us. Share our website on Facebook or whatever social media that you use. If you can put a little link in there. We are now up to about 65 subscribers. We can't wait to hit that number 100 mark. So if you can share, if you haven't subscribed, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Appreciate. I know this video kind of ran a little bit long, but just kind of wanted to share with you a little bit about, why we're here, what things kind of gave us that last little nudge. Hope you're having a wonderful day today, and we look forward to bringing you some cool videos very soon again, and have a wonderful day. And remember, if you're bored and you need to get out of there, remember, there has to be something more.